I was just reading through all the backlash that I received from my...
This is teaching for women. Romans chapter 10. Brethren, my heart's desire and prayer to God for Israel is that they might be saved. For I bear them record that they have a zeal of God, but not according to knowledge. For they, being ignorant of God's righteousness and going about to establish their own righteousness, have not submitted themselves unto the righteousness of God. Matthew 22, verse 37. Yeshua said unto them, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it. Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and all the prophets. For what is sin? In 1 John chapter 3, it is the transgression of the law. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. 2 John chapter 1, I beseech you, woman, I did not write a new commandment unto you, but one from the beginning, to love thy neighbor as thyself, and to keep his commandments. Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5, Yeshua's first and great commandments. And thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy might. And these words which I command thee this day shall be in thy heart, and thou shalt teach them diligently unto thy children, and shalt talk of them when they sitteth in thy house, and when they walketh by the way, and when they lieth down, and when they riseth up, and they shall bind them on a sign upon thy hands, and they shall be as frontlets between thy eyes. Verse 25, and it shall be our righteousness, if we observe to do all these commandments before the Lord thy God, as he has commanded us, keeping the 10 commandments, what they just received at Horeb, what was prophesied that Yeshua would refresh in Deuteronomy 18, verse 15 through 19, and Acts 3, verse 15 through 18, to keep the 10 commandments. For he only nailed the handwritten ordinances that was written against them, the sacrificial law, to the stake in Colossians 2. He was prophesied to give them everything desired at Horeb, the 10 commandments given with Jehovah's voice under the cloud in the midst of the fire, and he added no more. Deuteronomy 4 and 5. Leviticus chapter 19, thou shalt not go, verse 15, you shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty, but in righteousness thou shalt judge thy neighbor, in righteousness by the 10 commandments. Thou shalt not go up and down as a talebearer among thy people, neither thou shalt stand against the blood of thy neighbor. I am the Lord. Thou shalt not hate thy brother in thy heart, but thou shalt in any wise rebuke thy neighbor. Rebuke thy neighbor instead of stone, and not suffer sin upon him. Thou shalt not avenge nor bear any grudge against the children of thy people, but thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. I am the Lord. Yeshua's second commandments, the royal law in James chapter 2, verse 8 and 9. Do not be respecters of persons, or you commit sin, but rebuke your neighbor according to Scripture. Love thy neighbor as thyself. Jeremiah 23, woe to the pastors who scatter his flock, teaching burden of the Lord, that it's impossible to keep his commandments. For his son refreshed the covenants at Horeb, what he confirmed with many for 1 week before he ceased sacrifice midweek, Daniel 9. He rebuked the Pharisees in Matthew 15 for doing unrighteous judgments, for doing commandments of men over commandments of Jehovah, not keeping the Sabbath day, dawn Saturday to dawn Sunday, doing commandments of men, worshiping on Sunday, for his son rose on the Sabbath, confirming the covenants with many for 1 week before he ceased sacrifice midweek Wednesday. He gave them the sign of Jonah, that he be in the earth 3 days and 3 nights. And when the Marys came in Matthew 28, at the end of Sabbath, before the dawning of the first day of the week, he was already gone. He rose on the Sabbath. He went into the synagogues and preached on the Sabbath. He healed on the Sabbath. He is Lord of the Sabbath. Hebrews 4. If Yeshua had given them rest, wouldn't he have spoken of another day? He never spoke of another day. And whoever doesn't enter into the Sabbath has unbelief. Matthew 15. But he answered and said unto them, why do you also transgress the commandment of God by your tradition? Jeremiah 10. Cutting a tree out from the forest, bring it in your house, nailing it down so it doesn't topple over, and decking it with silver and gold. The sin unto death in 1 John chapter 5. Little children, keep yourself from idolatry, where all the churches have the Tammuz cross painted on the building, on their altars, on their books. The women wear them between their breasts. Hosea 2:2, plead with your mothers to remove the adulteries between her breasts, having idols, worshiping with their hands, and instead of worshiping him in spirit and truth, listening to a spirit of grace, which is not Jude chapter 1 verse 4, unmerited favor. For the pastors have turned the grace of God into lasciviousness, unbridled lust, wantonness, shamelessness, that you can come before the Lord in your sin and be shameless because you have undeserved favor, because you asked the lawless one, the man of perdition, Jesus Christ, into your heart, that teaches you that you don't have to keep the commandments. You can fill your vessels with swine's flesh, that has put himself above Jehovah. You worship on December 25th with the Trinity, saying that he is God, blaspheming his name, for his son came in his name and authority. Who's turned the grace of God into lasciviousness? So you don't enter into his Sabbath. You don't enter into his rest. So you have unbelief. So you do pagan witchcraft holidays, committing adultery on the Father, having other gods before Jehovah, breaking his first, second, and seventh commandments, flattering him with their mouth. Matthew 15. This people draweth nigh unto me with their mouth, and honoreth me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. Because they're supposed to keep the commandments in their hearts. And what you speak comes from your heart. This is all about Matthew 15, doing righteous judgment, doing no unrighteous judgment. The Pharisees spoke commandments of men over commandments of Jehovah. Don't curse, don't smoke, don't drink. None of those are sins. And you're right, you won't lose your righteousness by drinking, smoking, and cursing. You lose your righteousness. You never become righteous when you don't kill the old man in Romans 6 and enter into life. What he told the rich master in Matthew 19, when he asked him, how do I enter into life? He says, keep the commandments. He lists the commandments. He gives them his first and second commandment, to honor your father and your mother. Deuteronomy chapter 6, what he quoted, which is to keep the commandments and teach your children the commandments. The promise that came with that is that you would have a long life. One of the covenants of promise in Ephesians 2, for we are his workmanship unto good works in Ephesians 2, keeping the covenants of promise, eating clean, and keeping the 10 commandments. For Isaiah 65, when the Lord returns with fire to plead with all flesh, with his whirlwind, the 144,000, those that sit behind a Jeremiah 10 Christmas tree, filling their vessels with swine's flesh, is going to be destroyed along with the mouse. Revelations 22 verse 14, blessed are they who keep the commandments, that they have right to the tree of life and are able to enter into the gates of the kingdom.